Hello, good evening everyone, and welcome to the day 5 of Entre-Summit brought to you by Industry Inspire Talks. I want to welcome you all to the day 5, and today we have here with us another startup founder who is kind of Ram Ray. He's from the healthcare industry, and he's the CEO of Vizita Healthcare. So today he's here with us to help you and to guide you people in the direction of starting your own healthcare startup in today's day and age. So, giving a bit of introduction about Ram sir, he's kind of a leadership professional with top quality execution experience at the head of organization levels. He has over 5+ years of experience in healthcare sector, and also talking about Vizita Healthcare. Vizita Healthcare is kind of a point of care diagnostic startup that employs cutting edge non-invasive POC technology with algorithm-based reporting or AI-powered reporting to diagnose vital body parts. So, he has a lot of experience, running startups as well as working with healthcare startups. So today he's here with us, and it's a pleasure to have him. So let me, without wasting further time, let me just add him in the stream and let him introduce himself to all of you. Hello, Ram sir, and thank you for joining. And it's a pleasure to have you. Good evening, and hope you have an amazing session today.
Good evening. Thanks, Omkar. Thanks for that kind introduction. I would sort of begin by giving you a brief introduction about myself, and then share a little bit about the format that we could use today. But at first, very happy to be part of this event, Omkar, and thank you for having me here. And really excited to interact with young bunch of budding entrepreneurs and existing entrepreneurs possibly, and a lot of students and young professionals. And at any point in time you have a question, please feel free to sort of write in the chat window and let me know about those questions. In fact, one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this with Omkar and team is to learn from the questions that you're going to be asking. So that's my takeaway from this. I would love to get most of you ask me questions about healthcare ventures, and I would be happy to attempt answering them to the best of my knowledge and ability. So my short background would be that I spent large part of my early career working with financial services companies, and then started a BPO, sold that BPO, then moved towards training and education kind of businesses. And from the last 7 years or so, I've been in healthcare. I started with a company called Healthspring, which is a primary healthcare chain, and I led the retail business, as in we would build multiple clinics. We will have doctors, pharmacy, diagnostics, everything in those clinics. That was my first business in healthcare. And then I functioned as a chief operating officer for a pretty large South Indian diagnostic company called Vijaya Diagnostics, and then moved back to Bombay to start my own startup in point of care diagnostics. We are in the process of doing a little transaction in Wizita, as in my existing company might sort of go and merge with another company. But however, that's for another day. My present business is point of care diagnostics, where we go to a client's location and do diagnostics and issue them reports right there. So that's broadly the background. And I'd love to have any questions if you have at this stage, or should I begin with a few little slides that I have for you, which will basically act as an anchor for this conversation. So what works better? Omkar, should I go ahead and start with my
sure
slides, or is there a question that we have as yet?
First, we'll start with the slides, and then maybe we'll take the question. That works.
Right. All right. Wonderful. So let me share my screen with you all. All right. So let me stay on this slide and spend a little bit of time. This is like a background slide. This will tell you the overall healthcare delivery context in India. So if you look at your screen, it looks like a complex engineering design, but it is not. It's basically the entire healthcare delivery for you. Now, as you know, that healthcare basically comprises of medicines, doctors, diagnostics, and many other things. I've tried to put together a little diagram for you to sort of put together everything at one go. So right in the left side of your screen, you would see throughput. That's where the consultation with relevant, qualified, and sometimes even irrelevant doctors in rural areas, not so qualified in our country. However, that first piece is where the journey of healthcare begins. When a patient or a customer feels a little discomfort or sometimes for preventive reasons goes and meets a doctor. That's your step one. The step two is a prescription coming out of that visit. And then your job is to fulfill that prescription. The prescription could have some radiology in it, some pathology in it. That's broadly the diagnostics part. And some pharmaceuticals could also be there. Again, some allied interventions are also possible, like doctor is advising you to do some physiotherapy, take some nutritional supplements, or maybe get a vaccination. Now, all of that put together completes the step two. So we're talking about the first part of healthcare. The journey begins from you as a patient or a customer visiting the healthcare professional, who could be a doctor. And after that comes a prescription as an outcome of that event. And that prescription fulfillment is a business in itself. Pathology is another business, radiology is another business, pharmaceutical delivery is another business, nutrition, vaccination, physiotherapy, all of those are independent businesses. However, it fulfills the second job, which is prescription. Then comes secondary care interventions. Now, many times the customer's journey terminates at this point itself, as in the prescription has been generated and the prescription has been fulfilled, the patient recovers and the journey ends. Sometimes it doesn't end there. Suppose there was a stomach ache and the stomach ache did not go away on the basis of the first prescription that came about. In that case, the doctor will prescribe you to go to a specialist. You might go to a endocrinologist, or you might go to a gastrointestinologist, or whoever is an expert for the ailment that you have. That's your secondary care intervention. And sometimes if secondary care intervention does not work, you may have to go to a hospital for a therapy or for a procedure. Now, sometimes or most of the time, secondary care interventions and tertiary care interventions. Secondary care means specialist and tertiary care means hospitals. They work hand in hand. As in, the specialist works with the hospital to perform the surgery or the therapy on that particular individual or patient and helps the person recover and get back to good health. Now, the process of doing this, secondary and tertiary care, involves insurance facilitation. It involves various kind of citizen benefit programs, like you have this Pradhan Mantri Yojana today, where Ayushman Bharat Yojana, where people are going and availing benefits at hospitals, or you might have your own private health insurance or government health insurance policy, which is giving you the benefit to go and get a treatment in a hospital. All of that is basically a combination of secondary and tertiary care intervention. So that's your four elements of healthcare delivery. It begins with consultation. That's the first element. Then comes complete prescription fulfillment. That's the second element. That's where you have companies like Dr. Lal, companies like Thyrocare, even companies like 1mg. Everybody operates in that space, which is they are all working to fulfill the prescription of the patient. Step three is where the secondary care intervention comes. I'm sort of clarifying it all over again, that all around you will see specialists like cardiologists, orthopedic doctors, gynecologists. All of these are secondary care professionals. And then hospitals. So secondary care and hospitals work together and complete the four elements of healthcare delivery. The final element is rehab, post-op, or home care. This is not applicable in all cases, but sometimes in case of surgeries, you do have cases where a patient takes about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, sometimes a few months to recover from the post-rehab after the surgery. So there are companies operating in that space as well. You would have heard about companies like Portia Medical. You would have heard about companies like Care24. Now, these are companies which provides you caregivers at home and some devices which helps the patient or the customer recover fast, recover well. So all of these together makes up for the healthcare delivery context. Now, you as an entrepreneur could choose to do any of these or all of these, right? However, there aren't really many companies doing all of these. So I gave you examples. At consultation level, you have many doctor clinics. You have Apollo clinics, or many other forms of clinic. Today, there are e-consultation or teleconsultation companies. They all operate in the consultation space. That's your box one. Second one, prescription fulfillment. There are many companies here, right from SRL to Dr. Lal's, Thyrocare, to Healthians. All these companies are basically fulfilling the prescription either by offering diagnostics or medications. You have heard about companies like 1mg, PharmEasy, MedLife, which merged with PharmEasy. All of these are prescription fulfillment companies. Secondary care is primarily a doctor's domain, and tertiary care, Manipal, Apollo, Medanta, Fortes. So these are large hospitals, and then there are medium to small hospitals which operates in this space. Post rehab, home care companies like Portia Medical or Care24 or many others, local to hyper local players operating across India. So that's your overall integrated healthcare delivery structure. And you as an entrepreneur could fit in anywhere. Now, the reason why I made this slide for you is because once I'm done with a few more little content slides that I have, we'll come back to this slide and then I'll let you ask me questions that which particular part of this healthcare delivery you would like to start a business, and do you have any specific question about what it takes to build a successful organization in that particular category. I'll be happy to answer those questions. Should I move forward? Unless you have a question, I would move forward.
So there are no questions in the live stream, so you can maybe get started.
All right. So this is another little information that I wanted you to know. It's a very interesting piece of data, and possibly sets the context for who is the Indian consumer. So there are two diagrams that you can see on your screen. Let's focus on the first top left corner. Top left corner, you have a little data point, and I have sort of put this together from the World Bank's website. The data had come from ILO, International Labour Organization. There are estimates of 2019, and using that data, World Bank has sort of extrapolated and mentioned that how many people as a percentage of total employment in a given country are salaried workers. As in, suppose out of India's population of 135 crores, suppose there are 70 crore people who are working population, and rest are, say, senior citizens or children. This is an example. Let's say 60 or 70 crore people are working. Out of that population which are working, how many of them are salaried employees? That's an interesting data to know. And when we did this analysis, we found that only 24%, roughly about 24%, one among four Indians are basically salaried people. The rest of us are doing jobs which doesn't get you a salary. Maybe they are farmers, or maybe they are daily wagers, or maybe they are people who are running kirana shops, or they are delivering stuff. So basically, India only has about 24% of people among working population. This is not 24% of India's population. This is 24% of working population. And those are salaried people. The average for the world is 53. That's more than half. The average for the US is 93, 94%. Even Sri Lanka, our neighbor close by, is about 60%, 58% specifically. South Korea, a country which sort of has a similar demographic like us, and won its independence almost at the same time that we did, seems to be having 3/4. So 3 in 4 South Koreans who are working, they are salaried. Whereas in our country, it is 1 out of 4. So that possibly explains why insurance is such a small penetration when it comes to our country. And I'll tell you why it is important. Because insurance penetration all over the world has been largely seen by something which is proponed by the employers. So the more number of people are employed in a certain country in formal employment, as in salaried jobs, more is the health insurance penetration of that country. Because most of the health insurance is provided by the employer or facilitated by the employer. So one of the reasons why you see India is largely an out-of-pocket market, and I did not mention that data here, because the highlight of this slide for you should be that almost as high as 75% of all expenditure in healthcare in India is out of pocket, as in people have to spend that money themselves. It is not the insurance company, it is not the employer, it is not the government. So 75% of all expenditure that happens in the country, all healthcare expenditure I am saying, and not necessarily the healthcare GDP, because healthcare GDP also includes government hospitals and government spends and things like that. So let's leave that aside. So 75% of all healthcare spends that happens in our country happens from the pocket of the consumer. Therefore, consumer is extremely, extremely important class for us. In US, if you are a healthcare company, you are largely bothered about the insurance companies. Are they liking what you're offering? Is it solving a problem for them? Or In European countries, it is the government. If you are a healthcare company in UK, then you should be bothered about whether the government system, which is called NHS, is actually liking what you are offering. Is it solving a problem there? In India, it is largely consumer because 75% of the buying decision is by the consumer. The money comes out of their pocket. If that is the case, then it makes sense to understand that how affluent are Indian consumers and what is their paying capacity. So therefore, you that brings you to this little data that I have put together in the form of a nice sort of a attractive looking pyramid of sorts on the right hand sort of bottom right corner of the screen, which sort of segments various Indians across income groups. And we'll find that only 3% Indians have an average daily household income of more than $50, right? Which is about ₹1 lakh a month. So it's just 3% Indians who have an annual income of more than, who have a monthly income of more than ₹1 lakh. So that's your 3% Indians. And by and large, most of the startups today, whether they are in healthcare space, whether they are in EdTech space, or whether they are in e-commerce space, or whatever space they are in, by and large are targeting this 3% of Indians. So remember, there's a massive clutter at the top. A lot of people are trying to get the attention of the same customer. All the SEO, all the SMM, all the digital marketing, all the television ads, everything is aimed at that 3% Indian because the rest of the people do not have that much of affordability. India too, which is about 20% of the population, that also is becoming a certain class of customer. And there are companies like DMart and others which are sort of aimed at India too. That is people with less than ₹1 lakh a month income, and that population also becoming substantially large. However, the India 3, which is the biggest sort of segment of consumer, does not really have enough affordability for anything private beyond maybe consumer goods like soaps and toiletries and oil and food items. Beyond that, they don't really have affordability to consume any private service for that matter, healthcare included. So that's the point to bear in mind, that are you building a service for the only 3% Indians, or are you building a service for the next 20%? Because if you are building a service for the bottom 34% or 50% or 70%, then you must be working closely with the government system because the affordability there is very little. So there are two data points to learn from this particular slide. First, almost 75% of Indians who are working, they are non-salaried. Number one. Number two, healthcare expenditure in India is largely out of pocket. That means consumer pays directly. So A, there are very few consumers who are salaried. B, there are very large number of expenditure that consumer has to do themselves. But on the other hand, they are not so affluent. So
Sir,
therefore, your
sorry to
design of
interrupt
your
you.
services. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. Is your slides working, PPT slides, because it's not showing here anything, the change in PPT.
Okay. What are you seeing? Are you seeing the graph, the Indian context?
No, no, nothing of it saying. It's just like in the stream, it's saying Entre-Summit Healthcare. If you are explaining those graphs are not appearing here on the main screen. It's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's coming. Yes, now,
Can you
yeah,
see this?
perfect. Yes, yes, perfect. So it was just stuck to the slide one. That's what the
Oh,
issue was.
maybe you could have stopped me a little earlier because this was the slide that I was
Yeah.
speaking about, the 5 different boxes and
Oh,
things like that.
oh shit. No problem. No problem.
All right. I hope people are able to relate to this. Can you see, did you see the slide changing now?
Yes, sir. Just saw that. It's
Can you see
now
the
it's
Indian
working.
context? Can you see the Indian
Yes,
context now?
yes, yes. I can.
Okay.
I'm seeing the healthcare delivery context here. Yeah.
Not the India context.
No, it's showing the.
Okay.
Yeah. Now I
Understood.
can see the Indian context. Yes, yes. Now I can.
Actually,
Yes.
the way your system works, that one has to go and share the screen for each individual slide. If I run a presentation, it doesn't show.
No problem, sir. You just click on the slide and talk. That's it. Now it's happening.
Okay. Can you see the India context slide now?
Yes, yes, I can.
All right. So this is the slide that I was talking about. That how much Indians are salaried, how many people are earning money as a salaried employee, and then what's the insurance penetration in India, and how many customers can afford. Right. This is where we are. Can you see the slide about consumer realities and doctor realities?
Yes, sir. I can. Hello. Yes, sir. I
Yes.
can. I can see the slide. Now it's not showing. I guess maybe you have stopped sharing.
Right. I stopped sharing for a bit. All right. So after, so by now what we have covered is what we have covered is the overall healthcare delivery context in India. That the patient journey begins from a doctor consultation, and then it goes up to hospitals and post rehab. And the second slide was about the affordability of Indian consumers and how much of customers are via insurance and how many customers are going directly. So we learned that about 75% of customers are directly consuming healthcare services, and they aren't really going via insurance. Now comes, there are certain amount of consumer realities and doctor realities which I would sort of like you to learn about consumer realities. The things we should keep in mind, that most of the customers in India are bargain hunters. They're sort of, it's a very high trust deficit healthcare fraternity now. And on the doctor reality, you see it's almost becomes a Superman effort to become a successful doctor if you're not from a family of doctors. So both these realities are somewhat conflicting. That brings me to a question, that how do we go about building a healthcare business? All right, so let me bring you back to the first slide that I shared, and then maybe we would have a conversation on that itself. Does it make sense? Is it fine?
Yeah, sure, sir.
All right. Right. Can you see the Indian healthcare context screen?
No, I cannot see it. I just see the healthcare delivery content.
All right. So fine. That healthcare delivery context is also okay. It works. Now, if you're able to see the screen and able to understand what's going on this screen, then I'll sort of bring you back here and say that, look, healthcare delivery primarily begins by a patient visiting a doctor. That's your step one. That's the first box on the left hand side. The patient or the customer visits a doctor. The doctor gives out a prescription. So the first business is to facilitate consumer going to the doctor. Now there are teleconsultation companies, there are clinics, there are distribution of centers where you could go and meet a doctor. Now, once you meet a doctor, you get a prescription. And then comes the fulfillment of the prescription, which has allied businesses like pathology, radiology, diagnostics, home collection of samples. You have pharmacy delivery. You have pharma companies making pharmacies. So a whole lot of businesses are aimed at delivering what the prescription doctor is generating. And then the third step is where you are actually doing secondary care interventions. Now, secondary care interventions are only applicable if the doctor's prescription in the first level has not been able to treat you, or you have a certain element which requires you to go to a specialist, like a gynecologist, or like a cardiologist, or like an orthopedic. And after that, if your ailment requires a therapy or a surgery, then you go to a hospital. And then eventually comes post rehab and home care kind of business. So therefore, healthcare business becomes one of these. If you are in the business of if you are in the business of making customers meet doctors, then you could start a company where doctors can come and practice, as in you can open a chain of clinics, or you could start a e-consultation company, telemedicine company, like Practo is doing today. You can be a doctor, you can join a e-consultation company and offer consultations to patients. That's one of the businesses. Once the patient comes and is able to consult, then the prescription comes. Then you are in the business of fulfilling the prescription. Now you could be a diagnostic company collecting samples from people's home or delivering pharma products. Again, possible to build such businesses. At first, let me go back to the first point and say that in this consultation space itself, there is a massive opportunity. While there are general companies offering all kind of consultation, it is possible to become a vertically integrated player. One could start saying that, hey, we are building a consultation platform for only cardiologists, or we are building a consultation platform for only gynecologists, or we are building a consultation platform for only pediatricians. So one is, there are enough and more possibilities in building telemedicine platforms which offers consultations across verticals, or which offers consultation across various categories of of doctors or various practices. Some people are building platform for Ayurvedic consultation, some people are building platforms for homeopathy consultations, and some people are building general platforms. Again, e-consultation or teleconsultation platforms could be state specific, language specific, because we again have massive variety of linguistic capabilities in our country. So far, large number of teleconsultation platforms have been focusing on English as a language of communication. However, COVID has ensured that almost everybody, irrespective of whether the person speaks English or not, has to avail teleconsultation. And therefore, there is a proliferation of a large number of teleconsultation players who are adding multilingual capabilities there as well. So that's another opportunity for you to offer teleconsultation business, teleconsultation services across languages, across various states or various specialities. So while vertical integration is possible, so is horizontal integration possible. Various kind of specialization is possible. The second aspect of prescription fulfillment is a really large business in India. While on one end you have large diagnostic companies offering sample collection and eventual processing of the sample and then reporting, there are companies which do not process samples by themselves, but they provide a platform to the customers for customers to book various tests and buy health checks. And they send a phlebotomist, the person who collects your blood sample at your home, who will collect the blood sample and then come and deliver the service to you. And eventually the report comes from the lab. So again, there are a bunch of companies operating in this space of providing pathology, radiology, various kind of diagnostic services to your customers. At the same time, you also have companies doing pharma fulfillment. Like examples would be PharmEasy, Midlife. Midlife and PharmEasy are same now. 1mg, NetMed. Now these are companies which operates in the pharma delivery. You could choose to operate here. Again, let me tell you that there are companies which are many specializations here possible. There are people who offer generic medications. Now these are the medications which does the same job, but they are not branded. So these are generic medications offered at sometimes 1/5 or 1/4 of the price of branded medications. There are companies like Generico. There are many other companies which are opening chains of stores offering generic medications, or platforms where one could add their prescriptions of doctors and then get generic medicines delivered to their home. So that's again another possibility for you. There are companies which are offering nutraceutical products, like you have heard about companies like Healthcard and others who offer nutrition and diet supplementary products on a platform. So there are opportunities there as well. Again, there are opportunities to manufacture some of these things. There are companies which have recently entered, and quite a few of them actually, in the space of nutrition and diet supplement businesses, because not many Indians are consuming diet and nutrition products today, and therefore there is opportunity for somebody to enter into this space as well. So it's not just a platform play; it's also a segment where one could just start manufacturing and start selling on one of these platforms, or find a contract manufacturer and manufacture something which is consumed in large quantities. For example, some of the medical research papers would tell you that more than 60% of Indians are deficient in vitamin D. Now that means vitamin D supplements are a massive market in this country. There is a very large number of population which is deficient in iron, and therefore we have all kind of related problems among small children and women in this country related to anemia. Therefore, can you start manufacturing an iron supplement? Can you start manufacturing can you start marketing a vitamin D supplement product, dietary supplement product? Yes. So the prescription fulfillment space as a category has many possibilities. One can choose to become a platform, one can choose to become a provider, one can choose to become a specialist provider of a certain element. So while generating prescription is kind of business, fulfilling prescription is another kind of business. And more you move towards specialized care, more you move towards hospitalization and post rehab, your gross margins keep on increasing. But then you are becoming more and more deep technology driven company, because healthcare is a deep domain. More and more you move toward tertiary care, towards hospital, toward post rehab, more would be the dependence of the business on having a strong medical talent with you. So therefore, this is the overall landscape of healthcare delivery, and I'll be very happy to seek questions from you that many of you may have interest in starting a business in any of these areas, and I would be very happy to sort of share ideas or suggestions on what kind of steps you may be required to take in order to start business in one of these categories. Does that make sense, Omkar?
Yeah, yes, sir. So we have a question coming in. So there is a question, like the question is kind of like, if say I am a student, okay, and I want to start my own healthcare startup, like what are the key like steps to focus on in order to like get that like enter into that healthcare industry, okay? So taking that first step, what advice would you give?
See, the first point, if you are a student and you want to become a healthcare entrepreneur, is to identify what you want to do. So first step is that do you want to offer doctor consultation services to patients? Do you want to deliver medicines? Do you want to do diagnostics? Do you want to help people get hospital beds? Do you want to help people get health insurance? So healthcare as a category is not just one thing. There are hundreds of things that happens in healthcare. Once you identify what you would like to deliver, then you need to go and build capabilities which are relevant or useful for you to launch that particular business. So let me give you an example. Say, for example, you decide to offer a teleconsultation platform, as in you would like to build an e-commerce kind of a platform where doctors can come, patients can come, and whoever wants to consult with the doctor would see the list of the doctors, their qualifications, their specialty, like who's a cardiologist, who's a diabetologist, who's an endocrinologist, and the person will choose that doctor, pay the fees, and then eventually have a video consultation. So that means you need to have a capability to build a platform which has video consultation capabilities, which has demand generation capabilities. You need to do SEO, SEM, search engine optimization, many things to get demand on the website. And once you have got people who know about your website or know about your app or know about your platform, and you're calling yourself, say, a teleconsultation platform. So once people know that a teleconsultation platform or X teleconsultation platform offers consultation across specialties, they will come to your platform when they require, and then they should be able to transact. So depending on what you want to build, you have to decide what kind of capabilities you need to have. But what you should be mindful of, generally, whatever you do in healthcare, you should be you should be mindful of that India is a country which is supply constrained, which means our per 10,000 population number of doctors that are required, per 1,000 people number of doctors or nurses or hospital beds which are required, is far less than the global average. So, for example, we have less than 5 doctors per 1,000 population, and that's one of the lowest in the whole world. And that becomes even less when it comes to rural India in comparison to urban India. So, which is the problem that you're trying to solve? And if you're trying to solve a doctor problem, are there enough doctors available for you to work with? If you're solving a diagnostic problem, then do you have capital to set up a lab which is accredited, which is high quality, highly useful? Do you have talent which will be able to work with you and deliver the high quality care that is required in a diagnostic environment, because diagnostic is a high technology, highly technology intensive industry. It requires highly skilled professionals to operate those devices and offer meaningful solutions. So some of these are aspects that you should keep in mind before you venture into a healthcare industry, because here the cost of failure or cost of messing it up is extremely high. Remember, you are dealing with human lives. So say if you're an e-commerce company, you make a mistake, what will happen? The product will not deliver for 3 days, or maybe the packaging will suffer a leak. But when in healthcare, suppose a customer in need is looking for medication and you reach after 1 day, it can be grave mistake. It can be a mistake which can't be repaired. So therefore, before you get into a healthcare business, you must ask yourself, what is it that you would like to do, and what are the different capabilities in terms of financial capabilities, technological capabilities, and manpower capabilities which are required to enter into that business. And once you are fully clear, you must go ahead and solve problems. There are enough and more problems in healthcare that exist in India, and therefore because there are a lot of problems, so therefore there are a lot of opportunities. But you should very carefully examine that what you want to do and how you want to do.
Wonderful
Yes.
answer, sir. And I hope that that would answer the question. Okay, and the next question we have is kind of like, that it's past 1 year and we are stuck still with COVID. Okay, there has been a vaccine for it, but still it's like it's the second wave has came in. Okay, so like how COVID has impacted the healthcare industry, like according to you?
Well, healthcare has dramatically changed, sort of rather, the COVID has dramatically changed healthcare industry for sure. And I'll give you some examples. Now, some of these changes is going to become permanent, and some of these changes are going to be transient in nature, as in the world may move on from those. So the first aspect to keep in mind is things like teleconsultation. So like when India had a very low adoption of teleconsultation. We had teleconsultation companies, and some of those teleconsultation companies had fantastic technology. However, less than 1 in 50 consultations were done digitally before COVID. As in, if there are 50 consultations that is happening on a given day in a particular city, only one of them or less than that would be through digital medium, as in video consultation and things like that. However, today more than half of consultations which are taking place in the market is happening through video. People have become comfortable with that unless I have a condition which requires me, unless I have a fracture which requires me to go for a plaster or something, if it's a no contact thing, if I'm going for diabetes or hypertension to the doctor, I can might as well do it from my home, through my phone or through my laptop, through my computer. So teleconsultation is more scalable. You sitting in Bombay can consult a doctor sitting in Chennai. A patient sitting in Bihar has the access to best of the doctors somewhere in Delhi. So therefore, teleconsultation has dramatically changed the reach and distribution of healthcare delivery in India, and maybe it's a positive change. And I don't see it going back to where it was, and therefore healthcare will continue to be largely teleconsultation. The consultation part of the business will largely be digitally powered in the days to come. However, there are certain kind of businesses which has been heavily impacted and negatively impacted due to COVID. For example, the smaller hospitals which does elective surgeries. For example, there are smaller units or nursing homes which were doing elective surgeries, for example, a bariatric surgery or cosmetic surgery or hair transplant, things like this. Now, due to COVID, people have people have stopped planning for these kind of elective surgeries. They're thinking that let me get away from COVID first, let the COVID go away, let me recover from this setback, and then I can do these things, because these kind of surgeries can wait. And businesses which offering this kind of interventions or surgeries or clinics or medications is suffering because of that. So COVID has somewhat positively impacted certain kind of healthcare enterprises, for example hospital beds, for example demand for 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 high-end medical devices which are respiratory aiding devices, for example defibrillators and things like that are high in demand. But at the same time, there are businesses which are elective in nature. All those healthcare enterprises which operate on elective categories of services are suffering. Small hospitals, small nursing homes are suffering. So that's how COVID has impacted all kind of healthcare services, some for good. While it has created tailwind for certain kind of businesses, it has also created enough and more headwind for certain kind of businesses.
Yes,
Right.
and do you feel COVID would like go away this year? Like, what
Well,
what are your thoughts on that?
that's a tough one. I'm not a doctor, neither am I an epidemiologist, so I would not sort of stick my neck out and sort of make a prediction there. It's like a fortune teller story. I don't know if anyone in this world knows, but yeah, there are multiple viewpoints that comes from my doctor colleagues and friends, and I can share what they say. I'm not a medical guy, so I would not comment on that. I would just say that some school of thought says that COVID is going to become like any other infectious disease, as in the virus will become a lot more infective, as in it will infect a lot of people, but at the same time the mortality rate will go down. People, our body and people in general will learn to survive, and our bodies will learn to fight with it, and therefore over a period of time, while the disease will continue to be highly infective, it will lose its efficacy, and therefore, over a period of time, people would get infected, but they'll also recover. So that is one way that the pandemic would come to an end, and it will become an endemic in that sense. The other thing that people are saying that maybe what will happen that the whole world will get vaccinated in about a year or a year and a half. And if the whole world is vaccinated with nobody has coronavirus, then there is no one to infect no one, and that's in one way end of it. So there are various school of thought. Then there are people who are also saying that a virus will start mutating, and it will as you make vaccines, the virus will mutate and become even more potent and powerful. So you'll have to make more vaccines. So it will become like influenza vaccine, where every year you have to keep taking vaccination. So I don't really know what the answer is. I'm not a medical person. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm a healthcare business person, so I can answer business questions. But I would just say that these are the multiple views that I heard in the market. Now, which one will come true is anyone's guess.
Yeah, definitely, sir. Yeah, so I agree with you, like both the points. Okay, so one, like our immune system would be so strong that we'll adapt to that disease, and the second one is like one we all get vaccinated. So both were valid points which you kept here, and I hope that that helped that answered the question. Okay, so the next thing is like I've been going through a LinkedIn profile, and till 2014, you didn't enter into healthcare business. Okay, you are like working with other companies. So why did you like think of switching from to switching to healthcare? Like, what was your thought? Why did you switch from it?
Well, that's a great question. So in 2014, about 8 years back, when I entered healthcare space, look for me, what was very critical was that all my life I had worked in consumer businesses. I'd done consumer categories, as in these are businesses where you work directly with the customer and try to offer some service or some product which the customer demanding. So I had sort of worked with large category leaders. For example, I'd worked with HDFC Bank. I worked with Times of India, now Manipal Group. Now these are companies or groups which are sort of category leaders. Like Manipal is a leader in education space, HDFC Bank is a leader in banking space, Times of India is a leader in media space. However, in healthcare in 2014, when I came to this industry, we did not had a consumer brand of the size and scale of these companies like Airtel or HDFC Bank. So that was one thing where I felt that there is a need for one to build a large category, build a large brand. And on the second hand, I basically started my healthcare journey with a primary healthcare company, and I felt that India does not really have a primary healthcare network. It's broken. So you fall sick and you go to a doctor, you don't know whether the doctor is qualified. So there are a bunch of people operating in India who may not be highly qualified, and therefore there is a need for you to create an organization which has a system across the country. Like today, if you want to open a bank account, you can just walk into your neighborhood and go and open a bank account, and it's available all over the country. But access to high quality healthcare is not available all over the country. If you're in Bombay or a Delhi or a Bangalore, maybe it's easy for you. But if you're in a small city or if you're in a village, then maybe access to high quality healthcare is quite difficult. And therefore, there are a lot of touts and there are a lot of ill-informed people taking advantage of customers. So therefore, when I spotted an opportunity of creating a primary healthcare brand omnipresent all across the company, I jumped at that opportunity. And then one thing led to the other, and I continued to remain in healthcare. And after primary healthcare, I did diagnostics, I did point of care diagnostics and things like that. So therefore, now I see a space, and I felt India is highly underserved in this category. Healthcare and education are two categories where India is highly underserved. You need more and more top quality schools, and you still have shortage of them. Similarly, you need more and more top quality healthcare service delivery organizations, and you still have a shortage of it. So this is a category where over the next 10, 20, 30 years, there is a lot of work to be done. And I like working hard, building things, and working with large number of people and building people organizations serving thousands of customers. And because I like doing those things, therefore I chose to come to healthcare, and I'm happy that I did.
Definitely, sir. And that was some questions from the audience side. So there are some few questions which I have. So like
Yeah,
before going to that, you call yourself as like I've seen like the background of your LinkedIn profile. It says growth focused execution leader and also an
yeah,
organization builder. So all
yeah,
these skills which like I think personally think is like the work you have been doing in healthcare and in other such industries as well. It's what I feel like that has given you the strength to like polish on these specific skills which you kind of mentioned in your profile. And how has that helped you? Like these skills which you like, how did you impact lives with these skills? Did you help somebody with all these skills like you mentioned on your LinkedIn profile?
well, it happens. It happens automatically if you build large teams and build successful companies, then all of this gets done automatically. So by growth focus, meaning that you're looking in the future and not in the past. Whatever business you are running, you're growth focused. You like the business to grow. You like customer experience to grow. You like your employees to grow, your partners to grow, everyone to grow. And that growth only comes if you are delivering value. And if you're value focused, if you're focused on delivering delight, say you're working for a bank or you're working for a healthcare company, then you should measure yourself on the success that you generate for the customer. And if you are generating more success for the customer than you did last year, that means you have grown as a business. And when you grow in value that you deliver, you also grow in the value that you seek from the market. So if you're delivering more, you do get more, you get rewarded more eventually. So that's a growth mindset. And I would say someone who's sort of always focused on growing over the last year, over the last day, over the last month, and not just growing myself but growing everyone together, growing the whole organization, growing your team, growing your customer, growing your partner base. So all of that is important. That's growth mindset. I call myself an organization builder because over the years I've sort of found myself in roles, accidentally or incidentally, in roles where I would join relatively younger or smaller organizations and help to grow that organization, which meant hiring people, training them. I have a very strong bias towards training and building capabilities. I keep saying that hire for attitude and train for skills. So therefore, I would say that over a period of last many years that I sort of worked with large companies and relatively small companies, I sort of helped build many organizations, and therefore I feel that that's one of the specialities that I carry with myself. And if there is an opportunity to build a company fresh, I sort of latch onto that. So that's the other aspect. And while doing all of this, obviously you end up impacting life. You impact your own life, you impact your partners, colleagues, healthcare professionals, you impact the life of customers, you impact everyone's life. I mean, we are in life impact business. All consumer businesses are life impact business. You deliver a good health outcome, somebody recovers, somebody goes back home feeling happy. That's really the prize that you're looking for.
Great, sir. Great. And thanks for sharing that insightful information. I hope that it would help a lot of other students. So, the last two questions I have for you before we wrap this session is the very first question is like, as you are a CEO of Vizita Healthcare, so like what was the main motivation behind starting Vizita Healthcare? Why did you start it?
Okay, I have a simple answer to that. See, we are a point of care diagnostic business, which basically means that we go to somebody's house or somebody's office, wherever the patient is, right? It's point of care. That means we'll go where you are and we will use our devices to do a test and give you the report instantly. So this is something that the world needs. Now, it's just that all kind of tests cannot be done using point of care devices. For example, if you need to do an X-ray, you have to go to the X-ray machine. I mean, X-ray machine can come to you, but the kind of X-ray machine which is portable is small and it can't really scan for all kind of ailments. So, similarly, if you need to go and take an MRI scan or a CT scan, you have to go to the machine. Or if somebody needs to test your cholesterol levels, and I need to take your blood, take it to the machine, and the machine is going to analyze and give a report. So beside these, there are many other tests, many other scans which can be done by using devices which can be brought closer to you. So what it does, it makes life simpler for you, because rather than you going to a diagnostic center almost comes to your house or your office. And second, some of these devices are portable and therefore they can be kept in doctor's cabin. And if that is the case, then right at the time when you meet a doctor in case of a problem, beside your heart weight, your height, weight, and your heart rate, and your pulse rate, and your blood pressure, a doctor can use some of these point of care devices and do some more diagnostics for you, and that basically strengthens the hypothesis, or rather that strengthens the diagnosis of the particular condition. And they say in healthcare that the better the diagnosis, better the treatment. So the reason why we started point of care diagnostic company is because A, it is convenient for the customer, convenient for the doctor, and B, it improves health outcomes, because doctors love it. Doctors feel that if they're able to use point of care devices, then the quality of diagnostic is improved. They understand exactly what has happened. And once they understand exactly what has happened, the half the battle is won. They're able to give better quality treatment and the patient recovers and recovers fast. So that's the two objective: convenience and better outcomes, better clinical outcomes.
Okay, so that's great. So the last question is kind of like before going, okay, you have a lot of experience in the healthcare sector. You have worked in multiple companies. So see, I'm a student, and the people who are going to watch this session is a student. So they don't have so much experience. So what is gift to our student community to help them progress in their careers or to start with their entrepreneurial journey?
Sure. See, I would very simply say that if you want to start a healthcare business, then you first go and work for a healthcare company. That's very important, because unlike in e-commerce or say any other technology enabled business of the modern day, you could be a technology geek, you could be a techie, you could be very good in your technology, and straight out of college you could start a company and that company could do well. And there are many sectors where that should be the best approach, but in healthcare my advice would be that work for at least some time, if not for many years, at least for 1 or 2 years, with any healthcare company of your choice. Work for a pharmacy, work for a pharma distribution company, or go and work for, if you're an engineer, then go and work for a health tech company, try and do some coding, try and run some platform. If you're someone who's from an accounts and finance background, then go and work for the accounts and finance department of a diagnostic company or any other healthcare company for that matter. Because in healthcare, if you work for at least a few months or maybe 1 or 2 years, you would understand that what are the pain points, and no amount of reading will be able to help you gain that, because where the problem lies, is it only the customer issue, or is it also related to the quality of healthcare professionals that we have? Do our doctors have access to the right information, right technology, right capital, right infrastructure? Does our healthcare workers have the access to right kind of training? So once you have been in healthcare for at least a year in some company, you will understand what are the problems which require solving. Because from outside, if you look at healthcare, it basically involves three things. Healthcare means doctor, medicine, and hospital. But boss, but you are not a doctor. Suppose you are not a doctor, and suppose you don't have capital to start a medicine manufacturing company, or not start with a hospital. If you are not starting a hospital, if you are not making pharmacy, and if you are not a doctor, then what will you do in healthcare? You will feel that there's nothing else to do. But once you have worked with the healthcare business for 6 months to 1 year, then you will understand that there's a lot to be done. There's so much of work. Once you understand problem, you solve them better. How do you understand problem? Get some experience. So my advice is that if you're interested in healthcare, work for a healthcare company at least for 6 months to a year, and then you will find your problem. And then once you find your problem, you will start your business.
Wonderful advice, sir, to end that session. And now I want to personally thank you. A big thanks to you, Ram sir, for your time, for your valuable knowledge, and also sharing your experiences, true experiences with our audience. And it's been an amazing session. Even I have learned a lot of new things about healthcare. I didn't know anything about. I just knew the term healthcare, but what actually functions, like how it functions, and what all activities are done inside that kind of business area, I didn't know. But this session definitely helped us to gain insights into the healthcare industry. So thank you so much once again for your time, and thank you so much for being here, doing this event with us.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure is mine. Thank you. All the best. Look forward to see you again, and all the best to all of you. And may you all start healthcare businesses and become successful entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Definitely, sir. Bye. So that brings us to the end of the day 5 of Entre-Summit. If you have enjoyed it and learned something new, make sure to hit the like button. Also, like subscribe to our channel. And the event is not over yet. As I mentioned, we had kind of issues with day 2 speaker Kumaresh Bhatt, like who is going to speak about like starting your own startup in the marketing and advertising space. So he's going to be there with us tomorrow. The timing is going to be 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. So do watch tomorrow's session as well. Tomorrow's session is going to be the last day of Entre-Summit. And like thank you all who have been attending from the past 3 sessions and this particular session as well. I want to thank you for giving us your time and coming here and attending such insightful sessions who are hosted by people from like people from the industries which are there in the market today. And yeah, so giving like I want to thank now our event partners who are there for Entre-Summit. So just let me just share my screen. So these are our event partners for Entre-Summit. I want to thank Skillship Foundation, Zixo Minds, Give My Certificate, Not for Tech, Codeflow, Dev Incept, Dhairya Decos, and Startup Grant Bhubaneswar for supporting us and like being our event partner and doing this like event for us. So yeah, so that's about it, and also giving you an update about the Ira Decode session. So I am posting the link in the live chat if you want to, because the Ira Decodes is organizing kind of a 2 day like career boot camp, interview prep boot camp. So maybe you can register for it. I'm posting the link in the live chat, and also I'll be posting after the live session is ended in the comment section. So maybe you can check it out. And thank you all for joining today's session. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you join tomorrow's session as well. It's the last day of Entre-Summit, and do like support us, do give your valuable feedback and let us know what all speakers we should approach in our near like our next events. Okay, and thank you for joining and have a nice day. Take care. Bye bye.